Hey everyone, welcome back to John's Watch. Today I'm going to be reviewing a new game called A Plague Tale: Innocence. This was released on Steam on May 13th, 2019. The trigger price is $60 Canadian. It's probably around 50 US or your regional equivalent, and it's developed by Asobo Studio and published by Focus Home Interactive. So this is a very story-driven, very narrative-driven adventure stealth action game. I've seen some people compare it to The Last of Us. I still haven't played that. The closest I could find to compare it to would be A Way Out. It's quite a linear, like I said, narrative-driven game, but you get to interact with the world in lots of neat ways through puzzles or even little bits of combat in this game. If you're new to the John's Watch video format, usually I will record the first 20-30 minutes of a game and basically give my first impressions on the game. Occasionally I will play a bit more of that beforehand and then review it. For this one, for Plague Tale: Innocence, I actually beat the entire game before I did this video. So I'll go a lot deeper into some criteria for the review, but if you just want the nitty-gritty, I really liked this game. I thought it was fantastic. It took me, it was about 9 to 10 hours to complete it. There's collectibles throughout the game, and I probably collected like 12% of all the collectibles, even though I was actually trying to find them. I did really badly, so I guess I really kind of blasted through the game, so 10 hours is probably pretty low. I'd expect maybe around 15 hours for a normal playthrough, especially if you're trying to find everything. So to start with, let's talk about the gameplay. Like I said, I thought it was kind of similar to A Way Out. Obviously, this is just a single-player experience. So in A Plague Tale: Innocence, you take on the role of a French girl called Amicia, who has to lead her little brother Hugo through a heartrending journey. The game's divided up into chapters. I'm not going to say how many chapters because that could be considered a spoiler. I'm going to try and be as vague as possible in this video. But I think splitting it up into chapters is a great idea. It felt like a little bit kind of Telltale-y, where you could hop on and play a chapter or 3 at a time and then take a break. You could very much treat this game like a TV show. The lengths of the chapters do vary a fair bit. Some of them are about 10 minutes, some of them took me up to an hour to complete. But yes, gameplay. There's a lot of different types of gameplay in this. Like I said, there's puzzles, there's stealth, there's a little bit of action, there's one like quite Dark Souls-y combat scenario, which was very fun. You also have an upgrade tree for the character of Amicia throughout the game, so you can somewhat tailor your experience to how you prefer to play. It doesn't make a ton of difference, but you can still kind of personalize the game a little bit that way. The game does a great job of introducing new mechanics kind of sporadically through the game. Even up until, I think it was the second last chapter, they were still throwing new mechanics at me that I was having to learn and adapt my playstyle to kind of work with. And as you would expect, the game does get progressively more difficult as you get towards the end of the game. The game saves automatically pretty frequently throughout the game. It tends to do it before kind of big puzzles or big stealth sequences or big action sequences. So if you do fail, you don't have to go all the way back to the start of the chapter. But I did find, especially in the later chapters, that I would be having to replay some sequences, like, not a ton of times I suppose, but like 5, 6, 7 times, and I definitely got quite frustrated at some of the parts. I wouldn't let that take away from the game at all. I still thoroughly enjoyed it, I very much rate it a positive experience, but there were some pretty tricky parts later on. But that's just me, I don't like repeating parts of games, I like kind of doing everything in one try. Alright, let's go on to the graphics. So I played this on PC, on medium settings. I originally had it on the high preset, and I got 60 FPS no problem with it, but for some reason I would sometimes get sort of stuttering. It would feel like the FPS would drop, but I could see from the FPS counter that it wasn't dropping at all. So that might be something to do with my CPU. My CPU's fairly old at this point, but as soon as I dropped it down to medium, I never had any issues at all, and it still looks beautiful on medium. So I can't speak for the low settings, but I played the whole thing through on medium and it looked amazing. I'm gonna keep staying vague with this review, but there are some parts, especially in the first half of the game, where you will just be blown away by some of the things that you're seeing on screen. There was one part where my jaw did legitimately drop at what was happening on screen. It's a beautiful game, it's a haunting game, it's a terrifying game at some points. So the graphics and the art design and art direction in general is so well done in this. Alright, moving on to audio. The game is fully voiced in English, as you would expect for a very narrative-driven game like this. Compare it again to A Way Out, obviously all the characters were voiced throughout the whole thing. But not only is it voiced completely in one language, it's actually voiced entirely in 3 languages. Like I said, it is set in France, so the game is voiced completely in English, also in French and German. So I played through about 20 minutes on English, and then I was thinking, maybe I'll switch to French to kind of get the real experience. But after those 20 minutes had passed, I'd got so attached to the characters of Amicia and Hugo just from their voice acting that I think I listened to like 2 lines on French, and I was like, nope, I need to go back to the English.
Hugo, please! I'm sorry! Wait! Oh my god! Oh no! Hugo! I shouldn't have shouted! Please listen to me!
No, leave me alone!
I'm sorry!
And the voice actors for Amicia and Hugo are so good. Hugo especially really makes you feel for the character of this young, innocent little fella. He just sounds so sweet all the time, and the voice actor really did a good job of making you really feel attachment to his character. And the same goes for Amicia as well. She's got a very emotional performance in this. Not every voice actor is great. There's a couple of characters who are a little, not brilliant, but for the most part, most of the characters are very well voiced. And like I said, Amicia and Hugo, the 2 main characters, are easily the best voice actors, so it's a pleasure to hear them. The soundtrack is also fantastic. It's composed by, forgive me for mispronouncing this, Olivier Derivière. The digital streaming version's an hour 49 in length. It's already up on Google Play Music for me. I assume that means it's on like Spotify and Apple Music. But some of the songs are so haunting, and they really fit really well with pretty much everything that you're seeing on screen. So special shout out to the soundtrack. It's really good. And just like the art design, the sound design is also fantastic. Some of the animals that you hear, obviously you can see in screenshots on the store page that there's a lot of rats. You kind of get that from A Plague Tale, the title. The sound of the rats is something else. Like the first time you see them, it's pretty chilling. And I think that'll do for my review. Pretty much the only 2 negatives I could come up with the game were, like I said, having to repeat some parts of the game, and those got pretty frustrating for me, but I think most people kind of expect to have to replay parts of games, so that's probably not a huge issue. And potentially the price point. Full disclosure, right at the end of the video, I did get a free review copy of this, so the price point doesn't impact my feelings about the game at all. But I can see people maybe being a little bit upset if they spend $60 Canadian, $50 US, and only get about 10 hours out of it. I think it really depends on what you buy games for. If you're buying games to try and get the $1 per 1 hour of gameplay, you're not going to get that from this game. If you buy games to experience an incredibly beautiful world and an amazing story and amazing music, then I think this is a pretty good game. I was also a bit surprised to see some day 1 DLC on there. There's the Coats of Arms DLC for a whopping $2. When I saw it, it came as a pre-order bonus if you had pre-ordered the game. It basically, it doesn't do anything really. It lets you change your character's coat of arms in the game, and that changes their clothing a little bit. It's basically just like a $2 tip to the developers if you enjoy the game. So no problems with that whatsoever. So final thoughts, I absolutely loved this. I tried to be as vague as possible, as spoiler-free as possible, because I really think this game is definitely best played on your own, playing through it for the blind for the first time. And there you go, that was my review of A Plague Tale: Innocence. Really, really loved it. Thank you guys very much for watching. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys later. Bye!